Okay, we've got a word in context problem. Let's read up until the underline, try to predict our underline, and use the word clues around it. So, like the 1945 play, it reimagines Federico Lorca's The House of Bernardo Alba, Marcus Gardley's 2014 play, The House That Will Not Stand, prominently features women. So it reimagines this 1945 play in 2014, and it features women, and it's like that. So I guess they both do. In both plays, the all-female cast blank an array of female characters. So features or stars or presents, including a strong mother and several daughters dealing with individual struggles. So engulfs an array of female characters? No. That's like swallowing them. No. Encourages? Possible, but I don't think that's right. Comprises? Provokes. Provokes is to sort of elicit a reaction. Encouraging is to push you towards some goal or end. Comprise. It features, it includes, it comprises or consists of. That's the right answer. Another word in context problem. Let's read and try to figure out what predicted answer we'd put into the blank space. And then we could look at other clues. We're going to look at various word clues, etc. as well. So, and punctuation. So, handedness, a preferential use of either the right or left hand, typically is easy to observe in humans. Okay. My guess is it's not going to be easy to observe in other animals. Because this trait is present but less existent or prevalent, is what I would say. In many other animals, animal behavior researchers often employ tasks specially designed to reveal individual animals' preferences for a certain hand or paw. So other animals, it's not as obvious. Human, it's pretty easy to observe. It's less existent or prevalent. Recognizable, that's probably going to be it. Intriguing, it's not whether it's interesting or not. Less significant in many animals, I don't think so, but maybe. Less useful, it's not about its usefulness or whether it adds value. So because this trait is present but less recognizable, less significant in many, no, it's not an idea of importance, it's less recognizable, right? Easy to observe, the opposite would be less recognizable. It's all about observing and recognizing. A is the right word in context. Okay, we want the meaning of the word answers. What does it most nearly mean? So the following text is adapted from Capek's 1920 play, Rossum's Universal Robots, translated by Paul Selver Playfair in 1923. Fabry and Biz Busman are telling Ms. Glory why their company manufactures robots. Fabry, one robot can replace 2.5 workmen. The human machine, Miss Glory, was terribly imperfect. It had to be removed sooner or later. It's kind of funny. They're talking about the human machine, I guess this person, that she's an imperfect machine, right? She's a human. It was too expensive, that human, right? It was not effective. It no longer answers the requirements of modern engineering. It no longer sort of answers the requirements, meets the needs of. It's useful, that kind of thing. Nature has no idea of keeping pace with modern labor. So the idea here is the robots are replacing the humans. The humans don't meet the needs of or answer the requirements. So what would that be? It no longer explains the requirements. No, it's not about telling or not telling. Rebuts. No, it's not about, countering or arguing against. It no longer defends. That's not it. Fulfills. It no longer fulfills or meets the needs of the requirements of modern engineering. Sorry, humans, getting replaced. Okay, another word in context. Let's read and try to predict what goes in the underlined. This is interesting. It's kind of at the very end. So let's see what that says. And it looks like it's in a relative clause, a parenthetical of sorts. Business research, Melanie Brooks and colleagues found out that remote video conference meetings may be less conducive to brainstorming than in-person meetings. So in-person, good. Video, bad. The researchers suspect that video meeting participants are focused on staring at the speaker on the screen and don't allow their eyes or mind to wander as much, which may ultimately stop or halt creativity or inhibit, maybe lessen creativity is the idea. The video conferences are less creative, they're bad, than actual in-person. So impede, that's going to be our answer. That's the idea of lessen or inhibit. Not recommend, not criticize, and not construct. C, impede. Wording context question, let's read and try to predict our answer into the underlined section there. Set in a world where science fiction tropes exist as everyday realities, Charles Yu's 2010 novel How to Live Safely in a Science Fictional Universe traces a time traveler's quest to find his father. Okay, so this is a novel about a guy who's going through time to find his father. Because the journey of the novel's center is so critical, I don't know, I'm just guessing now at this point, we really don't know enough to say here, comma, with the protagonist ricocheting chaotically across time. So that's going to be with. So whatever this word is at the novel's center is so something. With, alongside this ricocheting chaotically across time, the reader often wonders whether the pair will ever be reunited. So because the journey of the novel's center is so, not critical, it's not the idea of important, it's so chaotic, it's so maybe multifaceted in different directions. So I'm going to say just different directions. Maybe multifaceted, complicated. Kind of get the idea. I'm trying to incorporate the idea of chaos, ricocheting, and it's hard for them to get together. So haphazard, that looks pretty good. It's a haphazard journey, which means it's kind of all over the place. So it's not easily put together. So it's not clear they're going to be reunited or put together. Premeditated would be planned. That would be the opposite. Inspirational, well, it's not about inspiring. And fruitless, well, it's not, that it's not going to happen entirely. It's just chaotic. It's haphazard. A. Okay, here we've got to predict a word at the very end. That's kind of interesting. Doesn't usually happen that way, but let's take a look at this word in context. So, it's in looks like a dependent clause here at the end or phrase. Mineralogical differences are detectable in samples collected from 2 locations on the near-Earth asteroid Ryugu. But such differences may not indicate substantial compositional variations in the asteroid. Cosmochemists such and such and colleagues note that at the small scale of the samples, the distribution of minerals is unlikely to be different. And why do I say that? Because the differences are detectable in samples from 2 locations, but such differences may not be substantial. So as a result, the small scale, and colleagues note that at the small scale of the sample, the distribution of minerals is unlikely to be different or significant. Uniform, that would be the opposite. They're unlikely to be uniform. So they're not unlikely to be neglected. The small scale of the samples, the distribution is unlikely to be redundant. Redundant means like literally, again, repeated. The small scale of the distribution is unlikely to be repeated. I don't think so, but possible. Ongoing. The small scale of the distribution of minerals is unlikely to be ongoing. That's definitely not it. Uniform. So is it uniform or is it somehow redundant? Let's read this again, make sure we get the idea right. Mineralogical differences are detectable in samples collected from 2 locations on the near-Earth asteroid Ryugu. I don't quite get this part. Is it the asteroid like outside of Earth orbiting somehow and they collected samples directly from it? Or they somehow landed on Earth? Not quite clear to me. But such differences may not, but they have two collections. Clearly, two locations were collected. The differences may not indicate substantial compositional variations in the asteroid. So they're pretty close to each other is the idea, right? There is some difference, but they're not exactly alike. Then we have colleagues note that at the small scale of the samples, the distribution of minerals is unlikely to be the same, uniform, right? So the differences may not indicate substantial Yeah, I think it's uniform. Probably uniform the same rather than redundant, right? Because we're talking about a distribution. Distributions aren't redundant. Distributions can be uniform, though. I think D is the right answer in context. Okay. As always, let's read around and try to figure out, given the word clues, our predicted answer to fill in the blank for this word in context problem. Interruptions in the supply chain for microchips used in personal electronics have challenged an economist's assertion that retailers can expect robust growth in sales of those devices in the coming months. Okay, so normally the microchips would grow because the people demand it. And unfortunately, the supply has been interrupted. So the economist is saying, hey, we may not grow. The delays are unlikely to blank her projection entirely, but will almost certainly extend its time frame. So it's not going to negate or, sort of destroy her projection entirely. Maybe undo, for lack of a better word, her projection, but will almost certainly extend its time frame. So the delays are unlikely to undo, fully change her projection. Let's see. Dispute. The delays are unlikely to dispute. So delays don't dispute. Withdraw, underscore, invalidate. That's it. Invalidate. Make them no longer valid. Undo. The delays are unlikely to make her projections no longer valid. In other words, they'll stay valid, but there will be a delay. Okay, D is correct.